Well, hello and welcome to Raj Sabha TV. You're watching Discussion Today with the host Rajat Kane. Well, in this episode, we'll discuss the findings and significance of advanced estimates of the GDP for the year 2020-21. The National Statistics Office, or the NSO, has released the first advanced estimates of GDP for the year 2020-21, underlining that the real GDP at 2011-12 prices in 2020-21 has been estimated to contract by 7.7% and nominal GDP at current price by 4.2%. Well, this contraction largely has been due to the lockdown and, of course, which has hit economies worldwide. Well, further, NSO says that the real GDP on the quarter-on-quarter basis, that's important, quarter-on-quarter basis grew at 21% from Q1 to Q2. The advanced estimate reflects continued resurgence in economic activity in Q3 and Q4, which would enable the Indian economy to end on a better note. The continuous quarter-on-quarter growth also endorses the strength of economic fundamentals of the country to sustain a sharp recovery post-lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Well, what does these numbers suggest, and what is challenges ahead for the budget, and what is the way ahead in general? We're joined with two important guests to discuss this further. Dr. K.P. Kaushik, he is Professor of Finance and Accounting, and Dr. Jayant Das Gupta, he is former Secretary, Economic Advisory Council to Prime Minister of India. Well, many thanks, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me start with you, Mr. Jayant Das Gupta. Sir, first up, just for the benefit of our viewers, what does these numbers, as they have been listed in the advanced estimates, broadly speaking, indicate towards the economic picture of the country?
The most important thing is that economic recovery is already underway. That has been shown by the Q2 figures as compared to the Q1, and then Q3 also. There are indicators which show that the economy has started growing. And there are a few indices which can be taken into account. Of course, the NSO has not dwelt on these aspects. So the good news is that the economy has started recovering. The GST revenue, the corporate tax revenue collection, they have all improved as compared to the previous quarter, in the third quarter, and as compared to even 2019 in the case of GST.
Okay.
So this is the good news. The other part is that the economy was projected to contract at around 10% by the IMF in its earlier estimate. The RBI recently calculated it to contract around 7.5%, but the NSO shows that it will contract at around 7.7%. So that is the kind of figure that we will have to contend with as compared to 2019-20.
Right. Many thanks, sir, for the opening remarks. Let me go off to Dr. K.P. Kaushik. Sir, in theoretical terms, if we understand these numbers of the NSO, before we go off to the challenges, now, broadly speaking, what does it suggest for the macroeconomic activity in the past 1 year? Of course, that was hit by lockdown, and that was a major challenge. You think that challenge has been largely or partly overcome?
As far as what has happened in the past, and if I compare it with the situation of our country, I would say that globally, if we compare ourselves, we are better. If we compare ourselves with the countries that of South Asia, we are certainly better. The recovery is V-type recovery, so we have done good. I hope it does not convert into W-type recovery. Apart from it, the fearing fact today is the second COVID-19 that people are talking of. And in UK, as we all know, that lockdown has been imposed. So I wish that the second wave of COVID does not hit our country.
Right.
But on the management of COVID itself, we have done really very good. In terms of our recovery position is much better than the world recovery position. So this was the macro position of it. If you go by sector, I would say that
Right.
if we talk about hotel, your hotels and your
Hospitality
transport,
sector.
that has certainly hit bad, because in that area we were growing as far as second half of last year is concerned, but there was a drastic, downfall, and the spillover effect of that was also seen in other sectors. Agriculture sector, our position is better. Construction also had a major, adverse position was there. Manufacturing also, it did hit. Service sector also. So apart from agriculture, I believe that today if we are proud because of agriculture, to be honest. That is my take.
Dr. Kaushik, as you mentioned that comparing with other countries and the world in general, we have performed better. So what are the index that you would like to highlight in that perspective?
Global economic perspective, report that says that the global, for the coming years, they have projected for the globe it is 4% global. For India, it is 5.4%. And for South Asia, it was 3.3%. So whenever any, economic, an institution that is concerned with economic development, it gives its forecast that is based on certain fundamental factors. So those factors, because they were good in our case, so our, future indication is good.
Right. Many thanks, Dr. Kaushik, for your opening remark. Mr. Jayant Das Gupta, now let's, if we start dissecting numbers of the NSO, now there are of course certain sectors which have performed better, and there are some sectors where performance seems to be a little wanting. So let's start with the sectors where performance has been better. So how do we see the future prospect of economy based on these indicators?
As Dr. Kaushik has mentioned, agriculture has been really a shining beacon in this economic downturn, the gloom of the economic downturn. And agriculture is expected to do well during the Rabi harvest. It has done well during the just concluded Kharif harvest. So agriculture will continue on its path of growth. But as you know, agriculture contributes only about 15 to 16% of the country's GDP.
Yeah.
So the main contributors are services, and a lot of the services are really MSMEs and very small enterprises which are run in the cities and in the rural areas. The services sector, unless it starts looking up, it will be difficult for India to regain the growth momentum that it had earlier. So it is important for us to focus our attention on the MSME sector in particular.
Right.
The third aspect is about the manufacturing sector overall, and within that, the industrial production sector. Now, it is the other way around. The industrial production takes into account, for instance, electricity, oil, natural gas, mining, coal. And the manufacturing sector is a small subset of the overall thing. Now, manufacturing has not been doing very well.
Right.
And there is a question mark still about whether consumers will opt for goods which are discretionary goods, in the sense that they can put off the spending on certain goods which are not essential goods. So that is a big question mark which will have to be solved. As far as the other sectors are concerned, in electricity consumption, for instance, there is an uptick which shows that economic activity is picking up.
Right.
As far as the energy sector is concerned, it is more or less, uh, other than electricity, it has not shown any particular growth.
Okay.
And mining and coal also are more or less, maintaining an even keel. So the short point that I wanted to make here is that if we need to get our economy to get back on its feet and to show growth, then we need to give it a stimulus in the form of, first, the MSME sector, and second, implementing the national infrastructure pipeline, which talks of roads, of energy, of ports, of other infrastructure. The 5-year projection for expenditure under the infrastructure pipeline is 102 crore,
Right.
lakh crore rupees. So that, even if we spend about 20% of it in 1 year, that would be a huge achievement, and it would give a huge boost to spending all around, and it would help the economy in picking up.
Right. That's a very important point. Dr. Kaushik, now if we dissect these numbers further and put in perspective, how does these numbers, the advanced budgetary, the advanced GDP estimate, I beg your pardon, help the governments in the budgetary allocation and the entire budgetary exercise?
Well, I mean, as we have seen that recovery is there, and the focus of the government in the budget should be to help those sectors to contribute more budgetary allocations to those sectors, that if they get it, the multiplier effect is there.
Right.
For example, I mean, I would say that there is a gap between the rich and the poor, and let me take the example of the dearness allowance that has been for some time, the government has stopped it, and it will not be, then the increased DA will also not be there for some time.
Right.
But I would suggest that if government could at least, for the lower level of employees, at least release it from January. Because if, you release at lower level, the spillover effect will be there.
Okay.
So this is one. Secondly, I mean, we have done really good that 2 vaccines, we have developed, and if they do good, certainly our service sector will do good, because if they are effective, then people will move, and movement will mean that more growth would be there. In addition to it, I would request that if health, disaster management and education, they are given more allocation.
Okay.
Corporate world spends around 2% of the average profit of last 3 years in social, responsibility related expenses are there.
Right.
So I would request the government that we need to identify those sectors, and the free hand should be curtailed so that they put their money. Disinvestment last year means the current year, and did not really take off, because if we see what we budgeted for the current year, we certainly could not do it. I mean, the worst performing sector was disinvestment. And people who really criticized disinvestment, if we do it now, they will stop criticizing it, because this is the right time that disinvestment should be, really a concern for all.
Okay.
We need to improve the governance of the banks. That certainly will help. Very recently, the bankruptcy code, which was relaxed, should be relaxed for one more or even a larger time on a selective basis. When I say selective basis, my meaning is that the units that are recovering, that are really doing good, they have not attained the desired level, but they are really doing good. Some relaxation should be given to them. And if I recall 1975, there was an act that was passed, and it was a act which, ordered the corporate world not to declare dividend for 2 years. Now, this is a situation when capital market is really doing well.
Right.
And because it is doing well, we certainly should take something from them in form of tax. I know most of the investors may not like this, but budget activity is just like a family activity. When the family is in problem and one member of the family is really doing well, then he needs to support the rest. Otherwise, the rest will not be in a position to perform later on. Again, I would say that, as earlier said, the agriculture sector is doing good. And nice to note that even the sales of tractor, they have also gone up. So on the whole, if second, COVID wave does not hurt us, we are not very far from the India that we were earlier witnessing.
Well, that's extremely important analogy, and of course, right, Dr. Kaushik, that's very pertinent point that you're raising about the second COVID wave. Dr. Das Gupta, let me come to you. Now, if we are looking at the challenges ahead, is the second wave as there are some discussions about it, will that impact Indian economy, or will that impact economies around the world as the first wave, or to say the original COVID wave in 2020 had impacted? Are economies prone to the pandemic now? Can we say that? Economies around the world.
Yes, it's a very difficult question to answer because the facts
Just
about
on a hypothetical, just on a hypothetical note, yeah.
Yes. Spread and the infectiveness of the UK mutant of the COVID virus, there are only preliminary reports that it is 70% more infectious. There already are some cases, about 73 cases which were detected.
Sir, let me correct you, 70% faster in spreading. There is still work in progress, whether it's infectious than the present COVID or not. Right, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Yeah.
The severity of the infections has not been really found out. The third point is that it is affecting the younger people also in a much greater proportion than the prevalent COVID strain. So it means that people from the working group, if it were to spread fast in India, people from the working class, people's category, let's say 20 to 60 or 55, that age group will also get affected, and they will also, that will have an impact on the economy. So that is a part of the conjecture. But on the good side, we have our vaccine rollout imminent next week, sometime next week. And from the other indications that we have had, we probably have about 50%, and I am making a conjecture based on various reports that I have read, that we have perhaps about a 50% case of serological from the sero surveys and other surveys infection already. So the magic figure, which again has been quoted, is around 70% for herd immunity to take place. So by March, April, when we would have finished, let's say, 3 crore vaccinations in India, we may have already be very close to the herd immunity level also for the more vulnerable segments of the population. So these are all positive factors which show that we should not really be as fearful of a second pandemic really rearing its head and destroying all the progress that we have made in the past 2 quarters. And so that is one thing. But again, it is subject to many ifs and buts and assumptions. The point which I wanted to make is that, national infrastructure pipeline, spending more money on, let's say, rural employment and urban employment schemes, helping the MSME sector, recapitalizing the banks and the NBFCs, all this will cost money. And if you look at the revenue collection figures, we had a target of approximately 24 lakh crores for the current year. And despite the fact that we have had growth in the GST collections from September onwards, and in fact, it went up substantially in December 2020. Even if we manage to have the same levels of revenue collection that we had in the previous financial year, we will still be 25% less than our collection target in the budget.
Important.
So we would only have about 18.6 lakh crores of revenue by March 31st, 2021.
How do we cover that shortfall, sir?
There are various measures which the government can take, and indeed it is taking. One of them is about a recovery drive and making compliance much easier, and making people nudge them towards compliance, more compliance, which will lead to greater revenues. The second thing about revenue collection is the very useful Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, under which about 83,000 crores is expected to be settled, demands for that much. So that amount which is pending, part of it will come into the government's funds, the coffers. The divestment aspect is, of course, there, and we really don't know how successful we would be, apart from, the very profitable concerns like Bharat Petroleum, like Concor, for instance, the Container Corporation of India. There are other divestments which will also take place, for instance, Air India, which may not yield any money at all, which may in fact need some government guarantees for divestment. The Shipping Corporation of India is another one which has also been listed for divestment. That also may not yield any money at all, but may need government guarantees. So divestment is a mixed bag, but net we should get money from divesting, because the other thing is that investors from abroad are coming into India. They are investing money, and the stock market is also showing that there is a clamor, a hunger for fresh stocks, for stocks which can yield good returns. So that being said, the PSUs which are in a profitable position, which are financially sound, if we divest, they will be able to provide budgetary support for our expenditure.
That's very important, sir, and many thanks for your remarks. Well, that brings to us end of the show. But before we leave, just very briefly, Dr. Kaushik, just last words for you. Given the cue, what these numbers have shown, what should the government do, or as per you, what is the best government have in front of it when it comes to drafting the budget, which is just like 3 weeks from now?
Yeah. Thank you very much. I mean, two things to me are very important. First is that in our country, the unorganized sector, it amounts to around 80% of the total employment. So that is the sector that has been hit the worst. It needs help, and if it is helped, the effect would be in a multiplier form. And second is that our farmers, they are in an agitating mode. I mean, I have nothing to say about the 3 acts, but at least the budget should, create some smiles on their face.
Absolutely.
These are the 2 things, and if they are implemented, certainly, things would be better. Thank you.
Well, many thanks, Dr. K.P. Kaushik, Professor of Finance and Accounting from AJNI-FM, and Dr. Jayan Das Gupta, former Secretary, Economic Advisory Council. Many thanks for joining us and throwing light upon this very important aspect of advanced numbers, advanced GDP estimate. Well, so that's it in this edition of Discussion Today. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV for more. Thank you and goodbye.